now our next speaker, Prof. Rihan Ahmed Khan. Prof. Rihan Ahmed Khan, he have PhD in medical education. Professor Rihan is one of the most dynamic medical educators, renewed surgeon with passion for medical education. Prof. Rihan had been involved in the development of medical education in Pakistan with his effort through his portfolio as a president of Society of Medical Education and chief editor of Health Professional Education Journal, and his scholarly contribution, national and international. His interests include curriculum development, assessment, and technology in medical education. Prof. Rihan, he will present today the digital teacher. Prof. Rihan, all the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I am thankful to Dr. Ahmed Al Amri and Dr. Mona Al Sheikh, the President and Vice President of Saudi Medical Education and the Saudi International Medical Education Congress, to provide me this opportunity to give a talk on the digital teacher. What I'll be discussing today is the digital teacher and why is it important, the requirements to become a digital teacher. I'll provide some tips for engaging students in online teaching, and I'll also share with you what are the best digital tools to support your teaching practices. So a digital teacher is a teacher who uses technology to enhance the learning experience and empower learners. You must have heard about the academic digitalization, which is now in current fashion, and it is the conversion of text, pictures, or sounds into a digital form that can be processed by a computer. We have passed through many generations. There are many among us who are baby boomers, Generation X, who were born in 1961 to 1980, Generation Y, 1981 to 1995, and then the latest generation, which is Generation Z, which is born after 1995. What we have to understand here is that majority of the teachers are either baby boomers, Generation X, or Generation Y, or some of them are even maturists. But the generation which we are going to teach, or we are teaching at the moment, is Generation Z. And these Generation Zs are technocholics. They are the ones who are using Google Glass, 3D printing, they are driving, the driverless cars, they have handheld or communication devices. So what we need to do is that we have to prepare ourselves as a digital teacher. And all of you are aware that main roles of a medical teacher are facilitator, a role model, information provider, resource developer, planner, and assessor. So what we need to do is we need to redefine this role. So we have to define a new role for the medical teacher, taking into context all the similar roles, but giving it a digital touch, which is academic digitization. So when we talk of information provider, the digital teacher, you need to know what has changed. We started with the blackboard, then we moved on to these transparencies, then we had presentations over PowerPoint, and now we are having face-to-face synchronous online sessions. And what has changed, education has gone online. We have virtual reality at practice. We are talking about machine learning, artificial intelligence, data mining. We're using algorithms. There are problem solving done through the artificial intelligence. Then there is talk of Internet of Medical Things and its impact on health care. So the new campus is your cloud, the learning management system which exists on the cloud servers. It can either be a Moodle, a Google Classroom, it can be Edmodo, it can be the Canvas, the Blackboard, or people are using a hybrid system. So part of it is on campus and part of it is on the cloud. So we need to know the new tools. If you want to be a good digital teacher, you need to know the new gadgets. You need to familiarize yourself with the new gadgets. So what are these student interactive platforms? We have learning management systems, as I've shared with you uh, earlier, and to add that, there is Schoology assessment is done through Kahoot, Socrative, quizzes, Quizlet. We have online classes, which you're all aware that they're more in vogue after the COVID-19 pandemic. We're using Google Classroom, Zoom, Microsoft Teams. We have discussion forums. The students are learning on Twitter, Reddit, Kialo. There are interactive boards such as Padlet and Now Comment. So all these are not something which a traditional teacher is aware of. So to become a digital teacher, we have to digitalize ourselves as well. So for example, let me share with you that now when we use a Padlet, which is a notice board, and what we do is that here you can see an example where I was teaching my master's students through the Padlet, and when I was comparing a Delphi technique versus nominal group technique, and this was all done through a Padlet in which the students, they wrote on this notice board, and many of the students shared their experiences, and then I actually organized it, and then it could be shared with them through a PDF. Then there are interactive boards. You must be familiar with a whiteboard, which is used in Zoom, and there are whiteboards which are available otherwise as well. You might be using the polls to make your sessions more digital, more interactive. This can be through polleverywhere.com, or there is a polling software built in the Zoom. So as an information provider, which was usually through a blackboard or handing the students the notes or the handouts, the situation has significantly changed now. Now, when we talk about resource developer, we were used to develop the resource material or the study guides, but all of this is now done in the form of a digital content. So to do that content creation, we need to know the PowerPoint in and out. We need to know how to share our content through YouTube. There are other softwares available. You can go through Google Slides, Prezi. The lessons and tutorials could be shared through YouTube, TED, ThingLink. So the scenario is changing. Now, when we talk about developing courses, we need to do it online. And developing an online course, which you might have taken the part which is done asynchronously, which provides students a chance to do their learning in their flexible time, is done through this set of softwares. So you might need to learn the authoring tools such as Rise, the Articulate Studio. You may have to create, the animation videos through Doodly, Powtoon, Animaker. The podcasts are in vogue and fashion. Majority of the students would like to listen to the learning content on the go. There are vlogs. If you're making a course, you need to know how to do the voiceovers. So you can just imagine that there's so much to learn for people who are either digital immigrants or who are, baby boomers, because we are now addressing students who are digital natives. And you need to know where to store these information. So you can use Google Drive, you can, use Dropbox, Box, Mega Drive. So in my past few slides, I've, mentioned so much technology with you. So this means that, we have to learn a lot. Just again, showing you that, the podcasts now are available. This is just one of the examples, that 26 best medical podcasts by Justin Knott. And this is a snapshot of Articulate Studio. Excuse me. So another role the teacher had was of planner. So as I initially shared with you, that when we used to plan as a traditional teacher, we would do this as a course organizer or a curriculum planner. But now again, if you want to do a curriculum planning or a curriculum mapping, you you're supposed to do it on a digital platform. And when we talk about digital platform, we have platforms like SAP or Moodle, or if a university has its own learning management system, such as Canvas, Blackboard, Schoology. So what we need to know is there are different rights which are given to the teachers there, like manager rights, teacher rights, non-editing teacher rights, what are the student rights. So this is all new information which has to be assimilated. And the Moodle is ever changing, and Moodle is a platform where you can run your courses, assess students, make their portfolios. Then one of the important roles, other than course designer, planner, is assessment. So assessment, usually we were doing it through pen and pencil or computers, but now even in post COVID-19 pandemic or during the pandemic, we have witnessed that these assessments were done online, and the use of online open book assessment was widely in use. And so there are many universities, they're now conducting assessments anywhere, anytime, while maintaining the exam integrity. And how they are doing, either they're using their own assessment systems developed in Moodle, or they're using independent assessment softwares like Socrative, Kahoot, even skills, soft skills have been assessed through Zoom meetings, through the breakout rooms. And I wrote an article which was technology enhancement in COVID-19 pandemic, in which I emphasized that how this total environment of learning and assessment has changed. And we have to understand that even after COVID, we're done with COVID, this scenario is not going to change. We cannot completely revert back to the traditional ways of assessment. So Kahoot is in fashion. Lots of people use gamification through Kahoot and makes the assessment very interactive and enjoyable. So now the question comes up, so what's new for the teacher to learn? I was attending a conference, this AMI conference, I think way back, 8-9 years back. It was in Lyon, France. So one of the speakers at that time, he said that many of you sitting here are physicians, surgeons, and you have a license to treat your patients. But do you have a license to teach your students? I mean, do you have a formal degree in teaching? So majority of us at that time, did not have a master's in health professions, or at least I did not have one. So, at that time I realized that we need to have a license to teach as well. So to enhance teaching, to improve teaching in clinicians, we have courses like Masters in Health Professional Education, Certificate in Health Professional Education. But to learn the digitalization in medical education, to learn how to become a teacher, we need a certificate in online and distance education as well, because this is something which is different than a simple teaching principles and guidelines which are employed in teaching traditionally. So what we have done is we have developed this certificate in online and distance education, and you can see from here that when we teach our students, what we do is that we teach them online learning theories and ethics. So they need to know netiquettes. We teach them instructional designing. We tell them what multimedia and educational tools they need to learn. We tell them about learning management systems. We teach them online assessment, gamification, and then we also teach them how to implement this institutionally. So what we're doing is now, uh, on top of the certificate in health professional education and masters in health professional education, we are also creating an awareness that the teachers of this day and age, they need to know these material as well. And engage students in teaching and learning. It is also important to know the principles and guidelines so that you can become an effective digital teacher. All of you must be familiar with Ghani's 9 events, which we use to make our teaching and learning engaging and effective. But many of those principles, though they may fit in online teaching and learning, but we need to have certain other tips as well. So what we did was we did a literature search and published this article in which I'll share with you 12 practical tips to improve student engagement in online learning so that you can be an effective digital teacher. And at the moment, what we're doing is we are using a combination of uh, learning activities. We have synchronous learning activities, which is what I'm doing at the moment, which is real-time, face-to-face. We have asynchronous learning activities in which we store the materials and then they can go through that. So what I'll do is just sharing with you that the first step is, if you want to make sure that you have a good synchronous activity, you need to choose an appropriate online learning interface. So that, as I already shared with you, you have to have a learning management system that can keep a record and streamline the process of synchronous learning. A best LMS is the one which is easy to integrate, is cost effective. And if you cannot, afford LMS, then you can go for Edmodo or Microfleet. Then you should be very well aware about principles of online instructional designing as well. And why is it important? Is because, say for example, you have to prepare something, a lecture, which is online. You need to keep in mind that there is a teaching experience which is based on your planning. There's a social presence which you create through interaction. And then there is a cognitive presence which you enhance through the technological tools that you use. And to engage students, you should be well aware that how to use chat boxes. So for example, even if at the moment as I am delivering my talk, and if the chat box was active, I could easily see what questions are coming up. And this is what we need to do as well. When we're teaching our students, we should keep the chat box active so that there is a real-time chat interaction going with the students. Then use a virtual whiteboards. Zoom has a built-in whiteboard. You can use other softwares as well in which you can draw on this whiteboard. You can even ask students to write on this whiteboard, and you can generate an interactive session. It can be effectively used in problem-based sessions or tasks. Then engage the students with interactive paths. And I've already shared with you that this Padlet is different from a whiteboard as it acts as a notice board. So what you do is you give students a task specifically in flipped classrooms where you can ask the students to go onto a website, whatever they've learned, they can post there, then you can organize the very next day, you can do a discussion on these Padlets, and once a Padlet or a notice board is finalized, that can be saved as a PDF to be shared with the students and for the future reference as well. Then whenever we are doing an online learning, we, as a good digital teacher, we should know when to break a large class into small collaborative groups. And that is done through breakout rooms. You have this option in Zooms, you have this option in MS Teams. And the advantages to the students are There's a lot of social learning. There's a lot of cognitive presence, which I shared with you earlier, is one of the hallmarks of good instructional designing. Then grab attention with online polls. And I must say that this is one of the very interactive way of engaging students. So you can use online polls. I've lots of excuse me, online polls which I've already made on polleverywhere.com. So they are handy with me. But whenever I take sessions, I use those polls with my students, and that generates a lot of discussion, a lot of activity. Then using the gadgets. Um, the concept of virtual reality, the augmented reality, and the mixed reality, it is now very much used in teaching and healthcare. So there are bundle of softwares in which there are virtual patients. Even the students can wear these headgears, teachers can wear these headgears, and in online environment, they can come to a virtual world where they can interact with each other and they can learn. And obviously, this can be done in an on-campus situation as well. Then it is improvise to energize, use medical improv technique to develop professional skills. And by this, what I mean is that while you're teaching online, if you're doing workshops, you can use role plays, you can create situations through which the role plays, they show the learners a way in which they can develop their professional skills. And then, as you know, assessment drives learning, and we obviously need to assess students. And what we can do is we can have interactive quizzes. I use Kahoot a lot, and through Kahoot, the gamification, it creates a lot of interest among students. There's a lot of healthy competition among them. You can even give them the quizzes to be solved later at home. And if you want to do it, if you don't want to do gamification, you can use a built-in software in Moodle, or you can use this separate software as ClassMarker or Socrative. This I've already shared with you, the use of Kahoot. And this is a very important principle, which is, keep the energy levels up by taking breaks. The digital teacher, specifically when we're doing it online sessions and they are long sessions, we need to have breaks, because then they re-energize our levels of interest in learning. Otherwise, it becomes a monotonous task. So this is what you see in here is the learner of the future, and the learner of the future is a digital learner. So if we want to effectively teach our learners, we have to become good digital teachers ourselves as well. I often quote this to my students that it is not important what I teach to you. Rather, the most important thing is what you have learned at the end. So with that, thank you very much, and I'm thankful to all of you.